contribute. I speak for myself and my colleague, collaborator, Rabbi Sandy Sasso, in welcoming you and thanking you for being with us for this opportunity to explore the volume we've been working on the last year and a quarter, and it's been very valuable for us. I can't speak for Sandy, but I'm guessing it's true for her, that you get so close to a work that everything that's implicit, at some point you need to make explicit. And the best way to make it explicit is to gather some people where you can share the foundations of what you've done and be clearer yourself by being clearer with them. And this is really such an opportunity. We're a pretty motley group if other people who signed up come in, and we have representatives from the Kaplan Center board. We have some people who are part of the institutional friends of the Kaplan Center supporting congregations, and a few rabbis who are part of the Mefarshei Chazon Kaplan 21st century interpreters of Kaplan. And we invited our creative team who've been making contributions, and Sandy and I, have the pleasure of seeing how they fit in the whole, but they haven't yet. So we thought this was a good opportunity for people like Jill and Siona to see the whole work that they're contributing to. So I am going to turn it over to Sandy to share with you the philosophy behind Oneg Shabbat, a Sabbath evening table companion, and a few examples from the work.
Well, I'm delighted to do this. It's been great working with Jeffrey, and we're really excited about this collection. We are now working with a designer, so the final design is not yet complete, but that's going to be really helpful in the presentation of this compendium. We wanted just to show you some of the art that we are using. We felt that in addition to ritual and prayer that's part of the Shabbat table, we were going to include other ways into celebrating the Shabbat through poetry, through activities, and through art. So this is a piece by Siona Benjamin, who I understand many of you already know. She is a B'nai Israel Jew and a pretty well-known artist now. We are also going to be having art of Jill Minkoff, who is with us, and we're very grateful for that, and you may see pieces of that. And also Joni Rothenberg, who had done some art for our Kol HaNohar. So, and they're all very kind, because some art that we wanted was way too costly. So these people have been generous with their art. So a little bit about what we have in mind for the book. Now, this just are some selections about why we think Shabbat's important. I don't think we have to tell you that, but this just gives you an idea. But let me give you the philosophy behind the creation of this collection. Basically, who is it for? Of course, it's for anyone who wants to celebrate Shabbat. I mean, whether they know a lot or they know very little, this provides an easy way to share with their guests the ritual so they feel included, and also if they wish to enrich the experience with other activities and readings and midrash, etc. But it's also particularly for people who are perhaps unaffiliated and unfamiliar with the Shabbat ritual and really want to have a Shabbat dinner, but they don't know what to do. And this is to make it easy and accessible for them and allow them to do a short ritual. Of course, the way it's designed, you can make it as long as you want, but it enables the group at the table to do something short to begin with. So in addition to what you will see on the screen and everything that will be printed in the book, we're going to have a digital supplement. So the book doesn't get too big. And so if people want to explore a little bit more, they can go to the supplement. Also, there will be music on the supplement. So if you want to hear how the song is sung, you can listen to it. that's pretty much where we're thinking and creating this. So let me give you two examples. The next slide. So, well, here you see a piece by Jill, as you can tell, and it'll be throughout the volume. We wanted to reintroduce the giving of tzedakah before the lighting of the candles. And so I mean, I'll read it really quickly so you can see this. Before lighting the candles, this was our suggestion: have a bowl filled with coins. We didn't think people had to go to their wallets, who were your guests, and give money. So we assume you have a bowl of coins. Invite guests to take a coin, place it in a container that's designated for tzedakah, and explain before the Jewish New Year, you as your family will decide where it shall be donated. So just participating in that ritual. And I'm going to read a piece that's not on here, but it's in the booklet. As Shabbat is about to enter our home, we open our hands in an act of generosity to make an opening through which the beauty of Shabbat may enter. We do not say a prayer before giving tzedakah because it's a mitzvah that cannot be delayed even to say a blessing. The giving is itself a blessing. So these insights might help people think a little more deeply about this ritual before we actually begin the Shabbat. So second example, next slide. Yeah, so that's it. We're not going to give you all the slides because it's way too much, but just show you what we did with hamotzi. We tried to include some thoughtful customs around hamotzi that could enrich the experience, and then we translated hamotzi in a different way, but kept obviously the traditional blessing. You can see it's in Hebrew and transliterated. We do that throughout the volume. So as a challah consists of twisted strands like intertwined arms, so we are reminded that we are interwoven. We're stronger together. And we quote from Ecclesiastes. And then we share this custom that bread is usually blessed first on a regular day, but on Shabbat we begin with wine, and we have candles. So we cover the challah to protect it from feeling slighted, just as we are taught to protect the dignity of everyone. So that was always something. And when I shared this with some other people, they said, I didn't know that. I mean, people I thought knew it, who have Shabbat all the time. So sometimes we make assumptions. What was most creative, I think, in this particular slide is how we translated hamotzi. So I'm going to read it and you'll see why. We give thanks for the earth that holds the seed that grows into wheat, that the farmer harvests, that the miller grinds, that the baker makes into bread. Blessed is the source of creation who makes us, it should say, sorry for the little typo, who makes us partners in bringing bread from the earth. So, we celebrate this idea that bread just doesn't come to the table, but we have a certain sense of humility, which recognizes our connections to many others who made it possible for us to have this bread, as well as to nature. So we thought that was a better translation than just saying who brings forth bread from the earth, which really doesn't say much to us, because we know bread doesn't come from the earth. So we try to do that with all the rituals. Notice we pick different metaphors when we say blessed is the source of creation, and we do that throughout. I will turn it over to Jeff. Right. And we'll give you an opportunity to discuss all this. So we just want to give you a sampling of what we've done.
Right. And we'll note several times that this draws deeply out of the Jewish and the Kaplanian theology that makes people partners with God in sustaining the creation. Sheridan, I'd ask if you can, we're going to have two interludes for some input, one now and one at the end. At the end, we're going to ask you to be our focus group, as we've been telling our publishers that this has multiple audiences. That's why you should be interested in this, and you could sell multiple copies. And we'd like to brainstorm that with you. But for now, Sheridan, if you can take us off the slide just for a few minutes, thank you so much. We sent out to you the production. I think what we're looking at now, the slideshow. And in the spirit of Pesach, I would sing Dayenu. It's enough that you're with us, but we did want to recognize that we sent this to you, and some of you may have been curious and looked ahead. So we'll pause now. If there was something that struck you in the slide presentation about the volume and the way it's being done that you'd like to share with the group, and we'll pause for a moment for you to gather yourself, share your response, and we're ready to move on. If I was right, that it was quite Dayenu, quite enough that you're joining us and didn't find time to read through the slide presentation, but I might be wrong. So anyone have a particular facet that you were impressed by?
So I love the translation of the Hamotzi. This makes so much more sense now that you're telling me you sent selections, because I didn't realize it was just pieces of it. And I can see immediately in my mind a use for it. Whereas, so for instance, in our synagogue, when we have an Afraf, we have this tendency to give people a gift, the couple a gift, and it might have a challah board that someone in our congregation makes or something like that, and a few different things. I could see this being a perfect add-on to that type of gift for that purpose. That's all I wanted to say.
That's great. You know, that's something we thought about, like to new couples or new families, that it would be great.
We were just joined by Rabbi Fred Sherlin-Derdab. Nice to see you, Fred. And we're fielding some basic responses if people had a chance to look at the slideshow we're going through now, and then we'll return and go through different facets. So anyone else, that's very useful, Don, a number of different levels. Anyone else drawn and compelled by something else?
I just have a question. It's beautiful, and maybe I missed out. Is this going to be laminated? Is it a book? What's its format?
Good question. Sandy, go ahead.
Am I getting feedback? No. Okay. I'm sorry. Got distracted for a second. It's going to be a book. It's going to be a book, and which originally our thought is paperback, because we want to keep it inexpensive, because we're hoping people will buy multiple copies for a table like they would a Haggadah. We're also thinking of a package where one would be hardbound and like 8 or so would be paperback. So there would be a leader copy, and then there would be the others. I mean, we didn't mention this, and Jeff, you want to say more? I mean, we're either going to publish it ourselves through the Kaplan Center, but we'll do, print on demand, or we have it at a publisher and they haven't made a decision. So we're basically waiting to see, what happens there. But it'll be a booklet, sort of like a Haggadah. Jeff, you're on mute, and I think Jane has a question.
Yeah, I was wondering about the size. If this is going to be at every person's table, I'm thinking 8.5 by 11 might get dirtier than smaller.
Jane, there's a certain individual who you know very well named Jane Susswine who commented to us about this a little over a month ago, and we took it into consideration and are producing it 5.5 by 8 or 5 by 8.5, precisely for that reason. We want it to fit well. So thank you for that.
And also a niggly, I think glossy will wipe off, food will wipe off more easily on glossy paper than regular. I mean, this is a real niggly, but we want this to be preserved. So.
Right, which is another reason for the hard copy. I'll say now that the hard copy we're intending it to have a feature drawn from the tradition of family Bibles, that at the very end, there's a family tree where one can lay out the people who are with you in spirit and help shape your Jewish life. And we're very excited about that for the hard copy. Deb, you had a comment.
I just want to say it's my first time seeing the art, and it's beautiful. I really like the picture of the water. I can't wait to see the rest.
Yeah, you won't see all the art this time, but we're very excited about all the art. I think it adds an important dimension. I mean, it's something you want to hold on to and preserve. It's not just, we don't want only words. We want people to enter the Shabbat through, music, through sound, and through sight and visuals. So yeah.
Delicious.
Well, I didn't say this, but since we're talking about it, there will be some musical notation. Now, those of you who knew Judith Kaplan Eisenstein, she was insistent that we all could learn at least how to go up or down. It was, and so while we don't have space to put all the songs in musical notation, you'll see an example where we are going to use some musical notation, and then you can link to somebody singing, like either on a YouTube or something like that. But we're going to value the intelligence of all the people participating, and know some people can, play the notes and sing the notes. So we're excited about that.
No, an electronic copy would be a digital thing that you can even follow on an iPad or a phone would be really helpful too, because then you could just press that music and everybody could sing along. Yeah. Oh, Jeffrey, you're muted.
Glad that my friend and colleague, I'm not muted now, correct? I'm not. Rabbi Judy Coomer has joined us. Judy, welcome. So nice to see you. We're exploring the philosophy behind the volume. I think we have time for one more question or comment. This already is very useful foreshadowing of what we thought we were going to do at the end as well. Enid, you have a last word here.
Oh, thanks, Jeffrey. I love the artwork, and I'm wondering if in the leader's guide there will be questions that can be asked about the artwork that relates to Shabbat, for example, or for the page that it accompanies.
It likely will be in the digital supplement for reasons of space, but we're great believers in the value of art and midrash that comes around artistic creation. So we will be doing that for sure. So thank you.
Let me add something to Jeffrey's one. The volume started to get too big, and you don't want to have, a heavy book at your table. So things that we felt we could put in the digital and in fact, we're even thinking more. We're trying to make it not ominous to somebody for the first time who picks this up and says, oh, I can't do this. We want to make it manageable. So we're trying to keep it a certain size. It's challenging.
Sure. For sure. No, I love Jill's piece that is not completely colored in. And it just begs to be, so, what does this have to do with Shabbat? And it's great. Thanks.
Very nice. Sheridan, can you take us back to the slides? Thank you for all those comments.
Sure. And I just put in the chat something that will be coming up as well.
Yeah. So, from a 1972 article in the Reconstructionist magazine, in view of the critical situation of the Jewish people, one such Seder a year, no matter how well conducted, even with the aid of our new Haggadah, this is 30 years after the publication of the new Haggadah, is far from enough. Every Friday night must be used to conduct a Sabbath Eve Seder for the transmission of the Jewish heritage from parents to children. This has become indispensable to the parents as well as the children. So again, Kaplan, as in 1934, is way ahead of the curve in Jewish life by foreshadowing how essential parental and family education is. He said it in 1934, and again, he echoes this. This is a clarion call for making sure that the best part of that we experience around the Passover Seder is carried into a weekly format. And in the article, which you have the link to, Kaplan does a couple things. One is, though generally he's measured and modest, he does a little humble bragging here. Good liturgy is important, and the new Haggadah, even 30 years after its publication, is a wonderful tool, but it's still only once a year. Create the best Passover Seder you can. You don't have the power of what? There's three things that Kaplan indicates that we've tried to put into the volume. One is creative expression and prayer that works for contemporary Jews. A second is curiosity and the spirit of dialogue that is so evident at Pesach, at Patachlo. You need to open up the people who are there and have a dialogue. So he's very concerned about that. And he has this really extraordinary ambition that requires more than the 10 or 15 minutes we're imagining people spending before Shabbat begins at having full study and studying sections of Judaism that give you a fuller conception of Judaism as, these words are familiar, the evolving religious civilization of the Jewish people. In a side article in the supplement, I've taken some time, Sandy, I did this yesterday, to connect this volume that we're doing to the Shabbat Seder. And it reminded me that as a young rabbinical student in the 70s, a group of us made the Shabbat Seder one of the central features of the open education program we launched at the Ansbach Thal School at Society Hill Synagogue. And I will send you or make available links, there is a full incorporation of different aspects of the Pesach Seder. There's a theme that ranges from Jewish names to Jewish life in Israel, Jerusalem, Jewish life in the shtetl. And for each theme, there are 4 questions to guide the inquiry. There's a ritual object. There's a full incorporation of what we think Kaplan was talking about when he said that the power of ritual and of the Passover Haggadah and the Seder experience can be transposed into a Shabbat Nusach, a Shabbat mode. So that's the roots that we trace. This is a project of the Kaplan Center, so we're proud to reclaim this sense that Kaplan had that Shabbat is so critical. It's Me'ayin Olam Haba. It's a taste of the best in the world, but it's also a platform for dialogue and reconstituting our Jewish selves. So we're very glad for that. And that takes us to another piece of liturgy where I felt the deepest connection to Kaplan's boldness. So we want to turn now, Sharon, if you could, to
I'm going to just do the intro, and then you're going to do the Hebrew.
Please.
I just wanted to add something. No, that's what I need. There are a couple Shabbat booklets that I have used. I mean, the United Synagogue put out something once that had just the blessing. And actually, the publisher who was thinking about this said, how is this different? This is significantly different. Okay, it adds a richness and a texture to the Shabbat that the other simply says, here are the blessings on pretty pages. So just so we recognize the distinction. And one of the distinction is in this Birkat HaMishpacha. So it's not just that we have the Hebrew, which Jeff is going to talk about, but we have some thinking behind how we got to what we say that most people are unaware of. So sometimes we have fight over who gets the best blessings. This is, I mean, I don't know about your kids, but she got more than he got, and how come he goes to bed and I wanted to stay up? And after Jacob receives Isaac's blessing, Jacob's brother Esau comes for his father's blessing as well. He asks his father, do you have only one blessing? On Shabbat, we remember that there are enough blessings for all of us. So this is an opportunity either to share that or really to have an interesting discussion if you want to, or just to know about it. And then the second piece, why do we bless children in the names of Ephraim and Manasseh? We hardly ever talk about them. As they were the siblings who lived in peace, may our children be among those who make peace. They don't fight, like Jacob and Esau. Wow, we wish our kids, wouldn't fight so much. And then we bless our children in the names of Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, as they were strong and loving. May our children be strong in heart and deed. So we give some thinking behind how this blessing came to be. And it's an opportunity to make a comment, to have a discussion, or simply just to be aware as we move into the blessing. And I will turn it over to Jeff, and we can look at the Hebrew and the translation.
What Sandy just shared, I would call internal midrash that we utilize to get the full expressions of Judaism as the evolving religious civilization of the Jewish people. I know for myself, Deb will know, that we always stumbled a bit when we blessed our boys with "May you be like Ephraim and Manasseh," because we weren't exposed to this midrash. I would add, like your righteous ancestors, Ephraim and Manasseh, but I didn't know that they were righteous. And this going back and digging into tradition is a critical dimension. Then there's a process of reconstruction that goes on. And Sheridan, if you go to the next slide, please, appreciate it. And this actually came in the form of a challenge from Eric Kaplan, our vice president academic advisor for the Kaplan Center, who read through the volume and said, I'm not sure that you're radical enough or you've captured what it means to do blessings of children in the kind of age that we live in, particularly non-binary. We're not about political correctness here. We're not blessing by pronouns, but we are recognizing that an absolute division between boys and girls doesn't encompass the family unit. Say a little more about that. So in the English, what we have is, may God bless you like Ephraim and Manasseh, like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. And Sandy was a good sport about this. I think I had stronger feelings about it, though she certainly agreed in the end. I thought it's really important to have something, while people will have the more traditional outlet through the supplement, we wanted something that focused on the family unit and siblings together. And for me, ultimately, there's a Jungian element here. That's my ground, that for all of us, we have male and female dimensions inside of us, which is why I want, for my kids and for myself, to have access to the virtues of Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. And I want Deb to have access to the best in Ephraim and Manasseh. So the blessing encompasses the totality of our ancestors. And that was, we worked hard on this. So that's what's behind it. And behind what's behind it is a conception of the Jewish family as being rich, complex, and constantly evolving. So if we can go to the...
Well, can I say something about this slide that is important? Okay, you'll notice we didn't, because this was something we thought about, we didn't change the Hebrew. And so we said, well, how do we justify not changing the Hebrew if we've done a little change with the English? And that's why it says Numbers 6, 24 to 26, because this is a quote from the biblical text. So we don't feel that we need to change Hebrew, which would be problematic for people who are used to blessing in a certain way and are not familiar. This way, what we're saying, here's what the text says. And then what's on the other side is important, that, after we say blessings for the family that is with us, we might want to take a moment to invite someone to say who's missing at the table. I just want to give an example. I did this once. I don't know if it was for a Passover Seder or Shabbat Seder. We had a lot of guests, and I said, who's missing? And somebody told this beautiful story about a grandmother who always made Shabbat for them and who was no longer living. And then everybody felt connected somehow. So opening the possibility of, remembering people who were part of you or somebody who's far away, that sort of connects us across time and space, we felt was really important.
So this expansion of the concept of family, of mishpacha, means that it's people who aren't with us physically. I think this captures it. People who may have drifted. And that's a kind of horizontal dimension that includes, we say at one point, that your Shabbat table is larger than you think. It includes Jews around the world who are similarly celebrating Shabbat, and it includes people who you wish were with you, who you invite. And it not only goes across horizontally, but it goes back. If you could, Sheridan, go to the next slide, please.
I know Jane has a question, and we will get to it. Okay.
Yeah. Let me I'll finish this really briefly.
But I wanted you to know we saw your hand.
Okay. Thank you. So the Jewish family extends back in time, and we could have created this. This is not what we will have ultimately. It's a placeholder. We want to make room for grandparents. We haven't figured out that. We know there are two sides to every family. We'll have to deal with that as well. But we wanted to take this lovely tradition that is medieval in origin. When you have a Bible and a family Bible, you date it and you create something of a family tree. And in the hard copy, we hope to give people instructions of how they can do that. So, Jane, you had a question.
Yes, very quickly before I have to, two things quickly before I have to leave. We have added Bilcha and Zilpa to our Amidah. And in terms of missing people, I just wondered if that could be considered. And the other thing is, in the family tree, it's a lovely idea. And in terms of the design, I would have it enable to acknowledge blended families and to be able to have, second fathers and all of that, to be able to include those without have the design be able to accommodate all kinds of families. That's all.
Yeah,
no, very weird.
I wanted to say, look, we thought, and I also just can't go back to grandparents. I mean, we can't go beyond great grandparents because we simply don't have a big enough thing. But I think we should go back to that. And we're asking our designer to find something that would accommodate all that. And we're just thinking we might put it in the hardbound copy, because that's the one you can write in. The other will and maintain. So thanks.
Yeah, and as Sandy was indicating, this is a placeholder right now to be replaced by something more sophisticated, more reflective of the real families we live in. Rabbi Fred Dobb. Fred, you have a question or comment?
Hey. Beautiful resource. I have to ask, going back one slide to the Birkot HaMishpacha about the Hebrew. It is a direct quote from Numbers to use the masculine, but that's actually only Masoretic, which is, only 1 millennium. And
you're on.
Yeah, sorry. We do bless half our children in the feminine, roughly half. even though the non-binary is still very much wanting. And it feels a little weird to say on the right hand who is missing from the the Seder, and on the left hand to have masculine only pronunciation, which is
Yeah,
doesn't fit right. Yeah.
I want to say this was a dilemma that Jeff and I have talked about many times. I actually like Yisimech, Elohim, and I miss that because that's how I bless my daughter. There's this tension between what we have grown up with and familiar with, that particularly for new people, what do we do with changing that? And then makes it hard for people to say, well, I don't even recognize this anymore, and how we try to be innovative. So it is somewhat difficult to do that. One alternative, and we haven't discussed this at length, was to put in a supplement. Here's another way of doing it. I mean, it's complicated because what's the plural? It's also a plural masculine. So now we have to go into another form of Hebrew, which we're assuming the people who are reading this are going to be incredibly challenged with. So how do we do that? That has all, how do we maintain enough of the tradition that people who have familiarity feel comfortable and still be innovative? That's the dilemma.
But thanks, Fred, for underscoring that our struggle is a holy struggle. It wasn't just us, and it's not quite finished yet, but that's where we are. Okay.
I think what's next, if we go back to the other slides, was just a quick view of what else is in the book. Right, Jeff?
Yes.
We share the slide. I think we're on the one Birkat. The one after that. There we go.
Sorry.
No.
Sorry, this is Daria. I'm driving. Things got postponed a little bit later here. So just to kind of add a piece to what Fred was lifting up, in our synagogue, we have little handouts that we do on the first Friday when the families come, and it just has the masculine language and it has the feminine language. And so I guess I'm just curious why that's not an option that you were thinking of having both on that same page.
That's an option. I hadn't really thought about that, but we were trying to figure out how do we bless everybody together, and then what happens with non-binary people. And this is when we got stuck.
Yeah, but I was just saying, like, Hebrew is a gendered language, and that's a growing edge, and I know that there are resources around that.
We checked out Ritual. Yeah. We checked out Ritual well, and we looked at things, and nothing quite worked. But Daria, what you have might work, so at least we'd like to look at it. Are you able to send that to Sandy and I so we can consider it? We're mostly done with the volume, but there is a little room. So please do send it to us. That would be very helpful.
I mean, it's just Yisimech, it just has like for boys and for girls kind of a thing like that. So it doesn't really address it, but I think a powerful footnote saying right now Hebrew's the gendered language but I think at a minimum it would look very outdated to only have the masculine language and not to offer Yisimech, although the next edge certainly for the Hebrew language is about the non-binary and what to do for them.
Can I ask you, do you do feminine for Yevarechecha too?
Frankly, I've been coming late to that part, and other people have been leading that part of the service, so I don't remember what the sheet all says, but it's coming soon, April 5th, and I can get a copy of it and send it to you. Some congregants actually put it together, but
originally we had Yisimech Elohim, and then somebody said, oh, you shouldn't do that. You should bring it all together. So we've been back and forth. So
I'm sure. Yeah.
That's helpful. Could we go to the next one after that? Next slide. No, the next slide. Again, no, the next slide. One more. Okay, I just wanted to show you some things we're doing. So we wanted to include some Sephardic tradition. So we are including a Sephardic birkat. And this one, I'm not going to read it to you, but it's translated in a way that you can sing it. So you could sing it in the English as well as in the Ladino. And we will include a regular birkat, but we wanted to provide this to say, hey, we're open to a vast cultural tradition, and we'll have this sung, on a link that people will be able to.
And this is where we're very pluralistic and can make room for it. We'll also have Brich Rachamana as a third alternative. So
that the only problem is we have a lot.
Yeah, right.
But
that's our problem.
It's
Right.
an example. So let's look at the next slide, please. So we are also going to include readings. So now this was a debate whether we're going to keep this here or put it in the digital, but this is a reading that I wrote that's been used a lot on on B mitzvah, bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, b'nai mitzvah, that if it's a Shabbat and you're having a celebration for the Friday night dinner, this might be something you might want to read. This is a supplement. It's not in the normal listing of ritual. We will also have pieces on holy days that fall on a Shabbat. So I'll show you an example of that. The next slide. I think Jeff is going to talk about this, but you could have Shabbat Sukkot. So on that Sukkot, you might want to go to this back of the book and include this.
What does a roof do? What good is a roof with holes? It doesn't keep out the rain. It doesn't keep us warm. It doesn't make us feel safe. So why on Sukkot do we eat outside in a temporary hut under a roof with holes? Holes in the roof are good. They let the outside in. They let us see the stars. They help us hear the wind and the birds. They remind us that long ago our ancestors slept in huts. Looking for freedom, they remind us that long ago our ancestors slept in huts. Giving thanks for the harvest, we look up, we listen, we take in a deep breath and blow out our thanks. That's by Trish Arlen, who's contributed most of the poetry around the holidays. She works with ritual well.
So if you take the next slide, just to give you an example, Shabbat Pesach. This is by Trish, and also we added something to it. I had a student, he came up with this idea of a blueberry on the Seder plate for people like him. On the outside, a blueberry is blue, on the inside it's green, and if you cook it, sometimes it is purple. You can't tell what a blueberry is or can be just by looking at it. And then we added, and you can never tell which child is wild, rebellious, simple, or has a question just by looking. Now, you may notice that we're very focused on family, and that kids could understand this. We tried to create and edit poetry so that it was accessible to a variety of ages. Now, this is not just directed to an adult audience, so really cognizant of that there will be children at the table. The next slide. Okay, no. Okay, so as I said, we're going to have musical notation. Dennis and my son David has been very involved in creating Shabbat liturgy, and he also agreed to do the musical notation. And this is we'll have some obviously traditional melodies, but this is a new Shalom Aleichem, and I thought you might enjoy listening, which he sang at the retirement service when Dennis retired. With Jacob's Ladder. Some of you know the group. We're going to just listen to a part of it. Oh, what happened? We were going to listen to it.
Yeah, maybe Sheridan wants us to listen without seeing the music.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. Because it's on a YouTube.
Yeah.
However you do it, Sheridan, that's beyond me.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, ברוך הוא רוחכם לשלום מלאכי השלום מלאכי עליון ממלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא
That's fine. Yeah, so we can go. Thank you.
Sheridan, I think that gives people the
That just
flavor.
gives you a slight idea of, some, and you have to understand that when we try to include certain music that is done a lot, there were copyright issues. So in this case, since it's the person who wrote it, he is willing to give it to us, that was not a problem. We checked, some things are not under copyright, and we're putting the music that's not under copyright or that we can get the copyright. It's very complicated. So that's why we wanted to bring something new in. Can we look at the next slide? And just we're soon toward the end and to brainstorm. Wanted to show you, in addition to the music, that we had a section of activities. And the way we did the activities was under certain Jewish values. So I'm only going to show you one, which is under Thanksgiving or gratitude. But we have one under Minucha, rest, Tikkun Olam, Talmud Torah, and Chesed, Haknasat Orkim. So we picked certain values with possible activities. This one is a blessing bowl that could be done as part of the Shabbat ritual that we do. Designate a bowl that's a blessing bowl that you'll use from week to week. As people enter, ask them if they would write on a piece of paper, so before Shabbat begins, how they feel blessed on this Shabbat, or a blessing they'd like to offer others. And then maybe during the Shabbat dinner, we ask everyone to pull out a blessing and read it. And we collect the blessings from week to week. And sometimes when we're not feeling so grateful, we have an opportunity to pull out those blessings and to recognize that we have things to be thankful for. So look, it's something people could do or not do. We were once given a blessing bowl, and I thought it was the nicest thing that I've gotten as a gift. Well, I've gotten lots of nice gifts, but I thought it was such a clever idea. This is not the art for this page at this point, but it's just a placeholder. But it gives you an idea that we will have a variety of activities. And that sort of summarizes how all the different pieces of activities, readings, prayers, rituals, music that we are trying to incorporate in this volume. And I think we're going to finish the slideshow and have a chance to brainstorm.
So thank you. You've already made a number of comments that are very helpful, reinforcing and challenging. That's a nice balance. And we want to end by making use of the fact that you live with a family. However it's constituted, you live in communities, you live in congregations. So we've done some thinking ourselves, but think you are a great focus group, as it were, to brainstorm together all the different ways that this might play out in the life of the congregation. So it's a tool that's well utilized and maximally enriches Jewish life. So Sheridan's going to keep track of these and show us at the end, but so that we might see one another, we're going to come back here and open it up to ideas that you have about who's this a good tool for, who's this a good resource, and how you might utilize in your own communities, families, congregations. So we're just unmute and share an idea, and we'll we'll record them. Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, Jill.
Yeah, okay. So I see several distinct ways of using this. One is certainly with my own family that gathers every Shabbat with multiple generations at the table. The youngest generation that then usually comes and hangs out with me on Shabbat day knows how to go into my cupboard and pull out all of the Shabbat pieces. And, you know, like they started doing this when they were 2, 3, 4 years old. They're a little bit older now. And the boys putting on their kippot and putting a cloth on one of my coffee tables and then doing their own Shabbat service. So I think it's done. This is done in a way, whether the children can read or not, have new pieces that they can add to that. Our small congregation here, we have once a month a family, we call it a Havurah Shabbat. And again, I think a lot of what is here would be very meaningful to them and give them new ideas for when they are not in the congregational setting, bringing this into their homes. So yeah, the readings, the activities are all great.
Thank you, Jill. Any other thoughts about how we might utilize this? Sharon and Judy and Deb.
Maim Rabim in the Twin Cities Reconstruction Synagogue has a couple times a year a Shabbat night out, and I just loaded up a congregant with some benchers, and this Shabbat companion would be perfect for that. I have a question. It didn't have the Kiddush, and it didn't have hand.
No.
Just selected aspect.
Okay. Okay.
Example.
Yeah.
What is wrong with it?
Great. I think, but I think this would work really well for our congregational gatherings in one another's home. I do have a suggestion, if it hasn't been done already. I would have a focus group with current RRC students, just to see where they're at with, if they just say, we wouldn't use it because the Hebrew is, I mean, I don't know exactly, but I think there might be a generational difference here.
Thank you. Judy?
Can I ask you a question, Sharon? How would you, what is wrong? I don't know. Sheridan, is something wrong with my speaker?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
What from the Birkat Hamazon would you want in this booklet? Like, we're nervous about length, and so if we include like the Ladino one, and we include was it Shefa Gold's one, it would some of it be okay if it were in the supplement? I mean, that's a problem because it takes up so many pages, and I don't want to scare anybody away. I'm not going to scare you guys, but I mean, there may be somebody who says, "Oh, whoa."
Can I answer that? I mean, I have an idea as you're speaking. I was picturing, like, just came through my brain, little square pictures of each of the alternatives that then could be seen in the supplement, so that when you come to that page, which is really important, the group who's looking through the book can choose where to go, what to use, so that the complexity is beautiful. It's really not a problem. It's really enhancement. Just an idea.
Thanks.
You need a guide to negotiate complexity. Yeah. Judy?
That's making me think about those make your own adventure books, where you can go to page this or page that or page this from where you are. And I know little kids tend to love those. Probably adults do as well. I don't know. I was actually thinking in terms of production, not use, a suggestion, a request. I think if I remember correctly, and it may not happen for this book, it may happen for some other perhaps, but I thought that Rabbi Mordechai Kaplan at one point had suggested using like a 3-ring binder kind of thing where you could add, it would make for an elastic kind of an evolving option where you could add material as things go. I'm sure you're already set with all the production for this, and it probably wouldn't happen for any other volumes, but it would that would be produced sometime soon. But I just think it's a nice thought to allow for elasticity, allow for evolution.
And maybe that can be embedded in the supplement in some ways. We're limited here by a number of things, including the intent of our primary funder, who's Karen Jacobs, the wife of Dan Cederbaum, Zichrono Livracha, the founder of the Kaplan Center. She has all these memories of Dan coming home with packets that they would use, and they like the concreteness of it. So her mandate to us is, while there could be digital enrichments, this has to be mamash, has to be something you can touch and has a life of its own, the best part of what a book is. But I like particularly the idea of an adventure, and think we can think about that in regard to the supplement.
Yeah, let me add something. I hadn't thought of that, but we could put a few pages in the back that are blank that you could either paste in or write in something of your own. That would still make it you don't have to do it, but as long as it doesn't get too long, that might work for us, something we hadn't thought of.
And I want to take go ahead, please. I want to welcome Rabbi Elishever Solamo, the executive director of the Kaplan Center and a great supporter of this project. So welcome, Elishever. We're getting great ideas here. And
of course, I'm so sorry. I had huge computer troubles. Everything had to be reopened and messed with. Here we are. But here I am, and I'm delighted to be with you all and to see some of you again in the past couple of days.
Yeah, and this is being recorded, so Elishever, we can get that to you for sure, and others. Any other suggestions, ideas around?
Mine's more of a comment. Now I'm at what's happening. Okay. So Jeffrey has not shared any of this with me. Usually he does, and so he's probably sitting on pins and needles because he knows I'm very, very critical of things in a good way, but critical nevertheless. I am not critical of anything I've seen right here. I think it is amazing, and what I particularly love is the accessibility for all ages. Like, it speaks to the very young all across the generations. I mean, it's just, well, from Sandy and Jeffrey, what do you expect? It's carefully honed. Wonderful job.
I want to echo that. I think it's a lot less intimidating than a bencher. And I think, Sandy, you were asking how much of the Birkat Hamazon to put in. And what does Camp Havaya do? I mean, I don't know. Do you know the answer, Fred?
Yeah, I was actually thinking that there's kind of a standard with the Shir HaMalot, the opening, the one paragraph, and then just the Uvnei Yerushalayim and Oseh Shalom. And that's not exactly the mini version that's in the bencher, but and this the bencher never fully took off, so I'm not sure whether this replaces it or supplements it. But the full Birkat is still in the Recon bencher, which is still floating around, but the Camp version, which Isaac would happily provide, might well be the one thing to print that wouldn't take up that many pages.
We're in dialogue with Isaac about various aspects of the project, but haven't asked specifically about that. So as this takes its form, some of those conversations get better focused, and perhaps that's a resource we can utilize or put in I know every time I say that, I feel this rumble in my stomach, and I know Sandy does too, of we want to keep this to 45 pages. We're working very hard to do that. And the digital supplement the question is, if we use it, how do we make that a living document that people really access? We knew that the people that we wanted to reach, I think of one of our 3 children who have a connection to Shabbat and probably could imagine themselves and our 3-year-old grandson spending 10 minutes getting ready for Shabbat and integrating candle lighting into it. But they're not going to spend a half hour. That's a little guy, Caleb. And then of course they get older and they can do more time. So balancing all that is part of the chemistry of intergenerational learning and something we try to pay attention to.
I'd like to, Jeff, just say something about the Birkat, which I find one of the more problematic sections because it's so long. For all of us, it's not a big deal. But for someone who hasn't had a Shabbat ritual at home, how do we, that long prayer is intimidating. And so how do we make it so they can do something simple and still say something after the meal? And then say, well, if you want to do more, here's the traditional. So that's what we're struggling with, because we're also trying to attract people who are not familiar with these prayers. And that's where, so any more advice, that's always helpful, but that's what we're trying to achieve.
And I think there's a tension, a necessary one, between accessibility and making this the fullest Kaplanian document that we want, meaning that it reflects the richness of Jewish culture and Jewish civilization, i.e., not many people are going to be able, or a small minority probably will be able to read the music, but that's important to the integrity of what Judaism is. And even smaller group will find their way to reading the Ladino version, but it needs to be there, or this isn't reflecting what the Kaplan Center wants to be sponsoring. So, some of this will have more symbolic play than actual play in use. Judy, looks like you had a question.
Yes, I'm wondering, is there a limit for the size of the supplement? And am I hearing correctly that the supplement will only be digital?
Yes. And no, there's no limit. We've spoken to our friends and sponsors at the Kaplan Center about making sure that the supplement can live on our Kaplan Center web pages in a very aesthetic, easily accessible way. Newsflash, Elisheva, we've opened up some conversations with Behrman House Apples and Honey, and I hope that would still be the case, but they may, if they end up publishing it, they may feel some priority around the digital resources as well. I hope not, because I'd like the Kaplan Center to be fully engaged.
Can I ask you a question? Sorry, just a quick question you can add to this. So when we were talking to a publisher, they said, well, is this for all the movements? Is this for everybody, or is it only Reconstructionists or whatever? And so I said, well, I think it's for everybody. But then I realized, we have a Reconstructionist Kiddush. So if we were to work with a publisher, which may not come to be at all, but if we were, how would you feel about having, 2 kiddushes, one side by side, or with an asterisk to say, the Reconstructionist version? I would hate to limit it just to Reconstructionists because there seems to be such bigger audience. So that's a question.
Yeah, and along with that is the commitment of the Kaplan Center is deeply organically related to reconstructing Judaism, but not the same thing. And built into our mission, as Don on our board knows, is in Elisheva, that we're trans-denominational by design. We think that Kaplan's message and approaches to liturgy are applicable across a wide spectrum and not just to the Reconstructionist movement, though, of course, I'm guessing that 2/3 of our sale will come from the Reconstructionist movement or friends, but in principle, we're larger than that and want to be.
Well, I think, this is Deb, that if you keep the focus on those who are just coming to practice of Shabbat, it takes care of a lot of the conflicts that you're talking about, because really, isn't that who this is for? I'm asking.
Well, we don't want to exclude those who I mean, I might like to have it at my table because my guests, I may be familiar, but maybe my guests aren't familiar. Maybe I have, non-Jews at the Seder or interfaith couples. So I'd like it for everybody, but I want to make sure that it's easy enough for somebody who's new who goes, well, that's just too much for me.
Yeah, I think
that's what I think.
Yeah. At the same time, isn't it wonderful if this resource could also be then for those who do know? And I mean, I'd love to have the text of the whole Birkat Hamazon in there with the, with additions, with the Hetiv Tovat Tov Tov, with the Imahot, and and a good translation as well as good transliteration, which just makes it accessible so that it gives people a chance, if they are learning something new, to know that there's more to learn, and there is the whole traditional in there to be part of the larger Jewish community, the larger Klal Yisrael.
I'm picturing a workshop where the ring notebook is introduced, and then people are invited to look through the supplement and find what would suit them, and then dialogue about why you chose what you did, and then it's just an alive notebook. The supplement is alive and changing and meeting the need of each family table.
That would be interesting if we also had more money. Not saying it to you guys, but I mean, that we could actually print the supplement at some point in a loose leaf binder. That would be different and would have other materials. But it's not inexpensive to print on high quality paper with good binding, and and we're paying a designer. We're 4-color print with the illustrations, so we want to make sure it's high quality at the same time. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. I mean, hopefully the readings and the activities will also be new and enriching for families who are comfortable expanding what happens at the table.
Yeah. I think it's fair to say it has multiple audiences, intended audiences, that if we were to choose a primary one, it would be people who have a connection to Shabbat, but not yet a very thick connection. This volume allows them to deepen the relationship, and it has enough plasticity and adaptability so that people who are further in their Jewish journey can use it as well. And I think that's, again, this process of making explicit what's been implicit. This is another way in which it's helpful in terms of audience. I think we have time for maybe one more comment, and then I'm going to ask Sheridan who's very self-conscious. She usually doesn't take notes, but I'm sure she's captured a lot of what went on here. Any last comment about, I just wanted to throw into the mix, because Sandy talks about this often, new families to the congregation. What a wonderful gift. A new baby in your family. What a wonderful gift. So life cycle and the life of the community, kids going through consecration, beginning their Jewish, that's where the Shabbat Seder was most active, with 3rd and 4th graders back in Philadelphia in the early 70s. It's a good audience to be working with. So, Sheridan, could you share with us the collective results of our brainstorming? We'll take a quick look at that.
Because she's pulling it up,
just wanted to also say thank you for this, and I look forward to looking at the parts that I missed. One of the things I was really struck by and that touched me deeply when I was at RRC when Colette was there, I know it's about adding something possibly, but having the kiddish and the feminine was very powerful for me. It's another way of how we get to explore around gender. So I know that that had been created, and I would personally love to see that more public and see the Kaplan Center and Reconstructing Judaism really take a leadership role in playing with God language around around gender and bringing feminine God language forward, since that's the easiest way to move beyond, you know, just masculine God language. So just putting in that plug at this stage that is probably too late, but just planting that seed for people who
No,
are here and whatever
the
is possible.
I think the the digital supplement makes any of the ideas not too late. Whether they're feasible and how we do that and the manpower, that's another kind
People
of
power.
question. People power. Thank you. I stand corrected.
Apropos.
Human power, people power.
Yes, yes.
Um,
Yeah.
Daria, let me also say something. I'm very sensitive to feminine language. I was before anybody talked about
Yes, yes, I'm
language in
sure.
the 70s. We were cognizant of that in all the English. We
Mm-hmm.
paid very close attention to that in the English. We just felt we didn't want to play with the Hebrew because it's not set in stone yet of how people are going
Yeah.
to want it to be. And if you're bringing new people in who have any familiarity with the language, they just know the traditional blessing. So we thought by translating it in a way that moved
Yeah.
it away from the masculine, that we would solve part of that problem. I understand what you're saying. It's just
No, that's great.
pragmatic, and I think
Yeah.
having it in the supplement it is an alternative for someone. And I'll just say, because I know some people are still talking about Yisimech Elohim, this is where Jeff and I disagreed.
Mm.
So I wanted to keep Yisimech Elohim because that's how I blessed my daughter. And then
Right.
we got a criticism. Well, why are you doing that? Because you're missing out from people who don't identify with either gender. And that's how we solved it this way. But I get a sense that we may want to put that back in. This is in some way. And, you know, you can do whatever you want. You can do it as a gathering, do it individually.
and we'll try to
So
give
these
you the
are the
reasons.
problems that we discussed, but
Yeah.
keeping in mind who we were doing it for particularly helped us focus on how we did the Hebrew. That was
Right.
Yeah, I'll reach
And
out. We have a rabbi, Ofer, Beit wait, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm blanking on his last name. Anyway, it's
Beit
but anyway,
Halachmi.
yes, thank you. I was like, wait, it's Shabbat. No, it's Beit Halachmi. Okay, yes, you understand what I'm talking about, Fred. So anyway, I'll reach out to him as well because I think he's a little bit more dialed into what's happening in Israel around non-gender, and I'll share whatever resources. But what I want to say, with the supplement, I love that. And I think really being super explicit and clear about that. I know that there's a planner I have where there's a QR page on particular pages. And so maybe as you think about the digital supplement and how to integrate it in accessible ways, sure, people who are having, anyway, just having like a link, a QR code on particular pages and have a footnote that says, if you want the feminine God language, here's a direct link to it. Download it in advance, or many people maybe are, not so machmir and will have their phones there and just pull it up anyway to use during the service as how do we make it as easily accessible and readily accessible for these different pieces? And it feels like, right, how are we deciding what of the different gender pieces, the different aspects of it? One is we're talking to an actual girl who's in front of us instead of a boy. We're talking about God language. We're talking about non-gender, right? So it seems like there's different reasons and nuances in each one of those around what is the ultimate decision of what's put in here right now, and where can we name with the caveat, yes, this isn't perfect, and this is at least more than what you will often find, and here are some additional resources in the supplement. I think could really being upfront about that and offering as much as possible, as easily accessible what I'm excited about seeing coming through here.
Thank you, Daria. That is very, very helpful and provides us with a way to go back and sort of summarize your input, for which we thank you. We asked you, how might this volume be used with your own family, community, congregation? How might I promote this? And you responded, have you thought of adding Bilcha and Silpa? Which we have. We've added them to our Amidah. Several ways to use youngest generation at age 3 and 4. Sheridan, you're going to kill my eyes here. Can you make it a little bigger? Thank you.
I could read it if you have trouble, Jeff.
And Shabbat night. Now I got it. Several ways to use youngest generation to know how to pull out Shabbat pieces, to give them new ideas when they're not in a congregational setting. Empowerment, best sense of the word, Jewish empowerment. Shabbat night out for congregational gatherings. Go through this book with a focus of current RRC students. Make your own adventure book. People can choose where they want to go next. Rabbi Kaplan used a 3-ring binder for an evolving option to add material as you go. Perhaps have blank pages in the back for more material. Look at Camp Chavaya versions to utilize. From Fred. Likewise, at least the option of Ruach in the place of Melech. 2 versions of Kiddush representing all genders. Volume for those beginners, and the volume is for those beginners and those with much experience. Raises the question of how you provide access for those 2 groups. And we do Vayachulu in the feminine and the Kiddush in the masculine. That's interesting. Okay, so you've given Sandy and I much to think about. If you could, Sheridan, bring us back to the picture of the whole.
Judy has
it looks like Judy would like a last comment. Go ahead, Judy.
Hold on. Let me figure out how to unmute.
You are.
I'm unmuted. Good. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm talking to you on the phone, and it's just hard to manage the controls. I'm just wondering if there is an option in the supplement or whatever's going to be produced digitally to have the version of whatever will be in print. So if somebody wanted to print the whole thing out and put it in a 3-ring binder, they could have that option as well.
Yeah, what we have to be careful of is that we don't undercut our own market by making it that accessible.
Yeah, and there's also copyrights.
Yeah.
We have to, we paid for some copyrights, we paid for some art, and we have to be careful that people don't just produce it without.
Sure. No, that makes sense. Yeah. I'm still trying to figure out how to have this be as elastic as possible.
And well, you've pushed us in good ways around that.
Can I just say, I agree with you in many ways, but I just want to say one thing very important. When I started in rabbinical school and they had all these supplements where women were included, I said, look, I think that's wonderful, but until those prayers are in a regular prayer book that's hardbound and kissed when it's fall, it's not the same. So there is something about the sacrality, the holiness of a book that we, don't desecrate or anything as opposed to just digital supplements. So I understand what's behind your thought, but there's something valuable of, reverencing a book as a book.
Absolutely. I understand that completely. And I have actually quoted you on that, Sandy. There is something also to the fact that when I lead services and I'm using a book and a supplement, granted, I'm working often with the elderly and it's hard for them to juggle, but I think even with middle-aged and even possibly young people, it's not easy to juggle between 2 things, which was my reason for wishing.
I understand.
But you're absolutely right about needing a bound book and the sacrality. I love that. Thank you.
Jill, did you have a final comment? We're going to make sure we end by 10:30 because we said we would. Jill, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I I love the idea of some sort of a binder. And it seems to me that with the technologies we have today, that the binder itself could be the hardbound siding of a book, but with some rings inside, and that one could possibly select the versions of the pages they want in it and either put it in themselves or have a publisher do it. The other would be to do some sort of a ritual when ordering the pages in the versions that you want, being able to lace them together at the binding now rather than so it's more permanent, and it's something about that binding us together as a community. Ritual.
Thank you. Sandy, I don't know about you, but I want to share that this group was very useful, engaged, reaffirming, challenging, all those good things. And you exceeded my expectations. So, Sandy, do you agree that this is
I think it was
richer
great.
than we might even have thought? And we hoped it would be very rich.
Yeah, some great ideas. Some things we can't do. I mean, we have certain limits with publishing as well, and other things that we really need to think about. And what we can't do, we can also always add to the digital supplement. The designer is figuring out how to make a little possibility for a link, and I don't know if it can be a QR code or not. I mean, I have to see what something both Jeff and I are incapable of, but she might be able to do that so that if you would use your phone, you could, especially for the music, for people who don't know how to sing the songs. The problem is there's a lot of copyrights on music. We could link to a YouTube that's not under copyright, but we can link to somebody else playing somebody else's music. Unless it's on a YouTube. So this was sort of a big problem that we solved by linking to YouTubes. So hopefully that will help people as well.
Okay. So we're going to end by thanking you, by wishing you a Chodesh Tov as Nisan rolls in, and a Shabbat Shalom. We're only a few days away from that as well. And yeah, thank you. Very, very worthwhile.
Good to see all of you. I haven't seen many of you.
Yeah, right. You're welcome to keep getting feedback and responses to us as it unfolds, and we may do that in a,
Karen, can you keep the chat, because I wasn't able to read everything. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, Sandy, why don't we stay on for a few minutes and wish all these good people well and thank them.
Good to see you, Fred. I haven't seen you in ages, and I hear such wonderful things about what you're doing. Mazel tov.
Thank you both. Just one last thing about with the digital. I could imagine that there's like a different fee for the
Yes,
full
Shikaya,
digital.
both of you. That was really the parts I could gander were fabulous.
Thank you. Daria, what I missed the
Yeah,
end.
I could imagine, like when I purchase different things at times, it's like buy the online version or the live version or the recorded version or the supplement. Like there could be maybe a different price for buying the full digital version versus buying just
that's a good idea.
the supplement, right? And so in terms of ways to work through that.
Sorry, I think we're making you part
discount
of our
if you buy the print
unofficial
and the digital
advisory committee. Thank you. That's very helpful.
Yeah, that's very good. What was on your site before your face? That is so beautiful. There is an art
I'm
piece.
sorry, what was?
My art piece on your table
my son made that.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, one of my sons made that with for digital laser thing at school last year. So
Elisheva, are you still on with us? Because I'd invite you to
thank you both.
Stay on for a few minutes if you wanted to do some of the quick processing that Sandy and I will do, if you'd like.
I don't know where
I think Elisheva is gone. Okay. Didn't get to her fast enough. Okay. Wow. Hi, Sandy.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks. You did a great job, Sheridan.
Yeah, you did. And you're not a bad note taker at all, actually. You captured a lot of that.
Okay.
Okay. So you'll send us the chat and the
Yeah, because
recording.
some of it was long and I couldn't really read it all.
Yes, and I'll upload the recording to Vimeo, and then I'll trim off that first part of just you and I, when just us were talking and whatnot. And I'll send the transcript as well.
Okay. Thanks as always, Sheridan.
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, but
Okay,
she's the one who did
and
the Zoom. You can't get off or we'll kill the Zoom, right?
no. Can you make me co-host so I can
Sure can. Yep.
kill the Zoom when we're done? And Elishev, I'm just confirming that I don't see your picture, but are you still listening in? I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Should I take off now and you just
Yeah, I think you can.
As long as we stay on the Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll see you later. And then yes, there Elisheva just signed off. Okay, and I'm gonna leave, and then I'll let you two. I'll assign Jeffrey.
Okay, here we are.
Yeah. So, I think they were a good group, and it was a good cross section. I could feel us being pulled into, the world of contemporary Judaism and gender issues, and that's not surprising, particularly given
Daria
and Fred in a different way.
Yeah, I know Fred. I don't know who is Daria. What is her?
She's at Oseh Shalom at the Laurel congregation in Maryland. She's very creative in everything she does and out of the box in some ways. But a good resource. And I think my sense is that we ought to push forward with Alex, get the volume that we want to send to Apples and Honey. And then, I think that hoping that by the early summer, if our schedules allow, you and I can, and things are moving through, we can revisit some of the issues raised here and see if there's ways to incorporate. If we have the I'm most grateful for the inclusive English. I wouldn't mind going back to the traditional non-biblical, Yisimech and Yisimcha.
That was what you told me you didn't want. That's what I want.
I know, but that was Tuesday. Today's Thursday. I've grown. I've evolved.
Yeah, I think we should include it. I mean, if people, you can also say you may choose to bless your children together. I mean, I don't know. It just seems, you're right. See, as we were trying to be more inclusive, we became exclusive of the feminine. So that was part of the problem. I understand that there are new ways of doing Hebrew, but for the audience that we are looking at, until that becomes more commonplace, and that's what our kids learn as they learn Hebrew, I don't see how that's even possible.
Yeah, well, I think you and I have a good chemistry and balance where you're keeping us centered on that, and I'm trying to take in as much of the creative reconstructing impulses that are at work, and they don't fit entirely together, but if we're aware of them, we'll make the right decisions.
Yeah, look, listen, creative liturgy was the very first thing that I did, and feminine voice was the very first thing I did. But I mean, I have articles from Raya Note and letters from Charles Silverman and Nadelman about all this. So it's very important to me. But when you start playing with the Hebrew, which we wouldn't even know how to do in this sense, then you already, if this is for the general Jewish community, they're going to say, well, I don't know what this is about.
I I mean, let's make a final decision when we move to the next stage, but I would be glad. I do want to see the English inclusive blessing, but I'm glad to see the Hebrew be the more traditional Yisimech and Yisimcha. And, the people will end up probably doing both or one of each or alternating.
Well, we might want to change that at some point with Alex. The other thing, there was something, I do think a couple of blank pages in the back, add your own prayers, is not a bad idea as long as the book's not too long.
Yeah, let's keep that open as an option. I think that is a good idea.
And I'm trying to, there was something else. I do not think, you may disagree with me, that we should share this with the students at the RC.
No, my inclination is to not.
They have a totally different agenda. There's so much antagonism there's like a civil war in the Reconstructionist movement with this college and rabbis who feel differently about Israel. We can open up a can of worms.
Yeah.
And this is not coming out of Reconstructing Judaism.
It's coming out of the Kaplan Center.
So I would not open it to that. I think we will get bogged in a lot of problems.
We already got more than we bargained for, but in a good, challenging way. I think most of the things that came up are things we can still do something about. But yes, I think the RRC focus group is not a good idea, not one of our core constituencies, though that says something about other stuff. Yeah. Okay. I felt under energized because of my cold, but
sorry. No, I thought it went well. The only thing I would like to do before before Alex gets to changing it, can we figure out how to do the Kiddush with like an asterisk which says tradition, I don't know, traditional version, Reconstructionist version, or whatever.
Yeah.
How do we put it? Rather than two side by side, an asterisk with the change would make it shorter. If we could do that, because that was a concern of Apples and Honey. I'm not saying they're interested, but I think it's a concern of everybody.
Yeah, no. And again, this isn't a product of the Reconstructionist movement. Right. It's a product of the Kaplan Center, and we do want to be trans-denominational. So I think we can get Alex to put that in, or
well, we're going to have to give it to her. So I think we should have the regular version and then put an asterisk and write Reconstructionist version. But I'm not sure if you want to do it the other way.
I think I'd like to do it the other way.
The problem with that is, what do you call the other? Traditional? Well, why is it traditional? I hate using that word. Yeah. If you say Reconstructionist,
standard, common, reform, conservative.
It's Orthodox too. See, that's why I agree with you. I would put the Reconstructionist, but by saying, here's the Kiddush as we know it, and then an asterisk, Reconstructionist change. You solve the problem of figuring out how to identify it.
Well, I think we also could call the asterisk could be the non-Reconstructionist.
I don't know.
I don't like that either.
I don't like that. I like traditional, but I hate traditional because it means that you could never make the other traditional. So I mean, it's something we should discuss, but we need, before we send it to Apples and Honey, we're going to have to make that change.
I'm also reflecting some history with Behrman House, not at the level of, I did a book for Behrman House, but it had nothing to do with this. It was about family education. But traditionally, Behrman House has always defaulted to the traditional version and made the asterisk the Reconstructionist version. So I know where, publicity and like
understand it. I mean, I understand it because I'm going to tell you, my congregation where we chant the Reconstructionist version, nobody else does. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah. But again, this, um, yeah. Okay. I would say minimally, and for now, um, let's put an asterisk and put what we would call, let's swallow hard and hold our noses and call it the traditional version. So it's there. And Behrman House might push back and say, we
well,
want to do the
yeah.
exact opposite.
Well,
But
I'm not sure that's what we should do, but I mean, first of all, we have to do it. And I don't have you would have to have, who is doing it? Michael, and we'd have to do the Hebrew so that it fits appropriately.
so where do you see the Hebrew fitting, as part of the asterisk or in the core? The easiest way
I
to
wouldn't
do
change
this.
the translation because I don't think the translation makes particular note of that anyway. I would just put an
We can
asterisk.
just, yeah, we, I don't know if we need to, I mean, maybe we're being more explicit than we need to be. Why not put um, in both the Hebrew and the transliteration in parentheses, Asher Bacharbanu, then it's there and people can do their own, take on.
Maybe we can do that.
Yeah, let me see if I can get Michael to do that.
I cannot do it. The question is which is in the parentheses, but it doesn't really matter at this point. But yeah, I agree. A parenthesis is better, and then it would have to also be in the transliteration. And I don't think we have to do anything with the translation. I'd have to look at it. I think
Yeah, no, we've taken the greatest liberties with translation.
that would be the simplest, definitely.
Okay.
The other thing,
Okay.
beer cut. I'm a little concerned about the beer cut because, of course, these people want the whole thing. Now, somebody knew, like after dinner, it's lucky if we get to sing a paragraph at the beer cut because people.
Yeah, no, I think we ought to be loyal to not our multiple audiences, but our primary. And that to me means keeping it simpler and making the full beer cut. We always thought about this available on the digital supplement. So
Yeah, we didn't include Shira Mahalot either.
I know, and I guess given the audience, I'm okay with that as long as we have Shira Malot as part of the full.
Oh gosh, you better take care of yourself.
Yeah, full traditional.
We should look at how the beer cut lays out because having those three things, we've got to figure out how it's not going to take more than
Well, the easiest, I mean, the thing that takes the most space is the Latino, right?
No, not really. She can design that differently.
But the Brich Rachamana is very short.
I don't know. Let's talk with Alex about that. I mean, to see what we can do with it.
Okay, I'm going to go resend you the letter to Alex. I think it's exactly what we exchanged. And it has my initial suggestions, your second set of suggestions, and then the third part, your very particular detailed comment. So it's what we wanted. I don't know how quickly she can work on.
I don't know if she can get to it, but I wanted her to have an idea of what.
So it's gone to her. I will confirm that and I will resend to you. Okay?
Okay, I think we're fine. Take care of your cold.
Okay, and I'll see you on Thursday at 1:30 my time, 2:30 your time.
Yeah. Hopefully, I mean, I'm real tight with things as I teach that night, and then I'm leaving Saturday morning. So, long as we get the basic conversation.
Yeah, let's see how far we can get. I mean, I do know Dina. How do I know her? Because I worked with her about the staging with Behrman House and Kaplan Center, your webinar.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, if we can get it near where we wanted, and you want me to send it on to Dina so you don't have to worry about it when you're down in South
Well,
America.
let's see. I
Okay.
have a feeling that she saw decided the concept is
Hi,
even
Dennis.
worthy of, not worthy, meaning that something they're interested in. I just thought it would help if she saw something a little more put together. But
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
we'll
agree.
see. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think the Bologna affair is over, so he's still there. Nothing will ever happen until he comes back.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Listen,
All right, thank
if I
you.
don't get to say when I see you on Thursday, have a wonder. We're getting pictures from Hannah, who's hiking in Guatemala.
Oh my gosh.
So breathtaking. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it should be very pretty. They're looking forward to it as soon as I get everything together and I finish what I need to do.
Okay. I know you need to.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
Sandy. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Take care.
Yeah. Thank you.